Welcome in, Ryan and Sack down here, soon to be joined by Jerry Reynolds. The Kings, huge first half, lead 68-51 in Phoenix. Kings with a biggest lead of 19 points, 4 lead changes in the first half. Biggest lead 19 again by the Kings in this first half. A first half in which the free throw shooting 100% this game, but only 2 attempts. We'll talk to Jerry Reynolds about that here in a second. But a very, very positive half if you are Mike Brown and you are the Sacramento Kings, especially coming off of that tough game in Milwaukee and really a weird first half. Can't wait. Again, Jerry Reynolds here to join us in a few minutes here at the halftime. You get great production from your starting lineup if you're Sacramento. And then the bench, Sasha Vezenkov, you want to talk about him, a plus 12 for the first half. He has 12 points in the first half, 2 of 3 from deep. In the stark contrast between the Sacramento Kings bench and Phoenix's bench, that is one that we talked about a little bit on the pregame show, but you look at Sacramento's bench in production tonight, you get 20 points off the bench from Vezenkov and Malik Monk. To Phoenix's bench, hardly anything. Phoenix, 2 points from Chimezie Metu off the bench. Very quiet half for Kevin Durant. Almost a little bit too scary of a quiet half for Kevin Durant. 1 of 4 from the field, no 3-point attempts, and 5 of 5 from the free throw line. So he is doing that effectively and getting there. But as I mentioned, we bring in the one and only Jerry Reynolds. Jerry, how's it going this evening?
Well, really good, Ryan. I mean, that was just a gorgeous half. I don't know that Kings can play better. Obviously, the starters all performed well, and the bench, Vesnikov, I thought Sasha
Yes.
really a key in getting that separation of the teams, and then the outstanding defensive work. Obviously, they're doing some doubling on Booker and Durant, and they've really not been a factor at all. Of course, Grayson Allen has maybe made up for a lot.
Yeah.
And Grayson, I mean, I've always said, boy, when Milwaukee lost him, I said they're going to regret that because that was a consistent 40+% shooter, and Kings are seeing an example. But great half, got 1 to go, but can't play better.
Yeah, the Kings holding the Phoenix Suns to 27 in the first quarter, 24 in the second quarter. Jerry, you'll take 2 quarters where you hold the Suns under 30 points.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, their big 3 just haven't been effective at all. I mean, and that's really a credit to the defense. I mean, they're really running and doubling guys, but getting back for the most part. Other than some open threes, they haven't given many away, and getting steals, getting tipping balls. I mean, probably everything that Mike Brown wanted to see in a first half, he just saw.
Exactly right. Jerry Reynolds joining us here at the half, 68-51. Jerry, how much of it was Sacramento's defense? I know, give them credit. They were scrambling out there. And how much of it is it they're executing their game plan? They're letting Grayson Allen beat them.
Well, yeah, I don't think they want to leave Grayson that open, but when you're doubling certain guys, somebody's going to be open.
Exactly.
I think probably they'll, and we saw at the end of the half they were running him off the line a little bit, and so they'll make adjustments. But you're right. I mean, they're basically chose their poison. They're going to. I mean, if I was picking going into the second half, I mean, I'd give Bradley Beal open threes or Eric Gordon, even though they're both capable of making them, than I would Grayson Allen. But I've been amazed at how ineffective Durant has been. I don't know that I've ever seen him play a game or a half where he just really wasn't a factor.
Jerry, he looks disinterested, and it's not all that different than the first time that we saw Durant in a Phoenix uniform against the Kings.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't see the fire for some reason, and but it's also true. It's on him at some point. This is a team he wanted to be on, and you know, and of course, having said all that, he can go for 20, 25 in the second half. We both know that. We've seen it.
Yeah, we do. We do, Jerry. And I was saying before you came on, only one of four shots is not a lot for Kevin Durant. So that does make you a little bit uneasy. But Jerry, you got to be happy if you're Sacramento offensively. All five starters seem to show up and seem to be, I think the key word is a threat, but we're seeing Sacramento share the ball in the last couple games much better. This first half outstanding, 22 assists, only 3 turnovers, Jerry.
Yeah, the ball's just popping around. Obviously, just about every shot's been an open look. A couple of, great individual takes by Monk or by Fox for the most part, but overall, it's been just open, clean looks due to passing, screening, moving.
Yeah.
It's beautiful basketball. I mean, really, it's just gorgeous, and Kings just are better in every phase in the first half, and but we know it's the NBA, and there's a second half. And so we just got to see more of the same, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So I want to read you a quick report, Jerry, while I have you right here from Jason Anderson of the Sacramento Bee. I thought it was interesting. You look at the game tonight in Phoenix, pretty much the entire front office of Sacramento. I'll quote Jason Anderson: Kings owner Vivek Ranadive and general manager Monte McNair sitting together along the baseline near the Kings bench. Assistant GM Wes Wilcox is here too. He was on the phone a lot when I saw him before the game. Jerry, your experience as a head coach, GM, anything extra to look into here?
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, generally you'd like to be a little more clandestine, but I mean, there's certainly probably, it appears to me they're looking at somebody, on the Suns now. Just who that would be, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, it's not their bench. Only 2 points from the Phoenix bench in the first half, Jerry, coming from Chimezi Metu.
Yeah, and obviously the Kings have had Metu, so it's not him. And I don't know if really, I wouldn't be too surprised if the Suns aren't considering, moving one of their stars. I mean, not saying it'd be Durant or Booker, but I could see, but it could be Beal. But I don't know why the Kings would want to do that.
Yeah.
For the kind of, I mean, obviously he's a talent, but the kind of money, 50 million for 3 more years, and he misses so many games. And he has for the 2 years before this, and so yeah, I don't know. Other than I can't know if I pronounce the game right, but there's a good defender on Ochogi or
Ochogi, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Josh
who
Ochogi.
last year started, and I thought played well. He's a defense. He's a really good defender, and
Mm.
it's him for some. I could see Kings having an interest to some level in a guy like that, who uh, who they're always looking to improve defensively, and he's potentially he's very good.
Well, sometimes it's not the big moves, it's the small moves. Monty McNair's been the king of that. I mean, look at Kessler Edwards last year at the trade deadline and then drafting this year, the moves they made to move back and get Colby Jones. So certainly something we haven't had you on since it happened. Mike Brown fined $50,000 by the NBA, 25 for the press conference and 25 for aggressively pursuing an official. What are your thoughts, Jer?
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, I certainly understand Coach Brown's frustration because there were certainly some missed calls in there, and and he had a good angle. He probably had a better angle than the officials did that didn't make the call. But you don't see it, you're not supposed to call it. But I thought the Fox was definitely fouled on a key take there. But yeah, you kind of conduct yourself in that manner, or you're going to get fined a lot. I was glad that the players themselves really they might have saved him from
That's a great point, Jerry. That's a
long.
great point.
Oh, because he had lost it, and he could have been suspended for a number of games. I mean, if the players hadn't got to him right away.
Well, the game was going on. He
Yeah,
actually somewhat collided with Pat Connaughton.
yeah,
So
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was very well. It was one of those things. I mean, really out of sort. I mean, that's kind of the reason I honestly I thought it did help the Kings get back in the game. I mean, fired him up a little bit because he's not the kind of coach that does that very often. Or
Yeah,
they
I
always,
thought
yeah,
his point was valid, Jerry. I mean, when he
uh,
brought the laptop up, I mean, it made a lot of sense if you're looking at the plays that he's pointing out. But
yeah, that probably cost him an extra $10,000 too. Because
yeah, it's
I
an
mean,
expensive laptop.
he definitely proved his point, which is exactly what the league really don't want to have a point proven like that. That's for sure.
No doubt. No doubt. That's Jerry Reynolds. I'm Ryan in Sacktown. This is If You Don't Like That. Please give us a thumbs up if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't. I will be back post game to wrap things up. Grant is off tonight, but we are happy to have Jerry here at the half. Kings up 68-51. Jerry, just really quick before we get into some keys for the second half. You're talking about the ref show, and it seems like there's an abundance of late calls this year where the foul's already happened, the ball's in the hoop, and then you hear the whistle. Are you noticing that?
Yeah, really. I just honestly think the officiating on, and I don't like to criticize officials because it helps or hurts both teams. Uh, but yeah, I just think it's been a bad year for the officials, and I don't know exactly why. I've always said I really don't think the league does enough to get the very best officials. They're too much concerned
Mm,
political correctness as opposed to just getting whoever you can get to call the game. And if in my mind, you need to get people not just and train really good officials, get guy former players, I mean guys that really are in good shape and understand the game. That takes a lot of training. They wouldn't, but I just think they got to do a better job of getting the best officials on the floor. Don't worry about anything other than that. And because this game is impossible to call anyway. And so
yeah,
and so when you have every probably 10, 15 of the officials aren't really up to it, in my opinion. That was one of the things in the old days. I mean, you only had two, but in truth they control games better. you know
interesting.
I mean, I think the players knew they'd miss calls, and they'd say, "Oh, well, we'll get you next time," and they would.
Yeah,
They would. But it all, I mean, I always
but
said
see,
the best
is
officials, if you were good enough to win and deserved it, you would most of the time.
See, Jerry, so is it that you bring up a really funny point? I know we're gonna get to your final score prediction really quick, but or in just a second. But you bring up a funny point because replay throws an interesting bone into the mix because in the old school it was we got you on the next call, right? The ball may have been off your hands, but we also didn't call the foul where they hit you across the wrist. And
Hmm.
now if somebody challenges it, there is no more middle ground.
No, and actually, the thing that bugs me the most sometimes is I don't think the challenges, are called right. I mean, it's
Yeah,
got like football. They go to the thing and study it, and then still make mistakes. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just too old school, but I like the idea of basically two officials didn't listen to a guy's bitch on every call,
mm,
uh, and they take a tiny bit of questioning, but only a tiny. And then if they missed a couple calls, in the first half, they'd come out and tell you, "Hey, we missed that one. We'll we looked at it at half, that sort of thing. We'll get it right." And
yeah.
so yeah, I thought it just lent itself to better officiated games where officials had more control. They weren't required to listen to dissertations about every call from every player. And I don't think it serves any purpose. As you know, I haven't seen them change a call. So anyway, so that's my rant for that's
I
a
love
Jerry
it.
rant on officiating. But the end result is they got to do a better job of getting the very best officials, not some whatever. Train them, beg them, whatever it takes, but get the very best ones in there. And
I
that,
love it. I think we're on to something. Jerry's rant. If there's any sponsors out there that want to sponsor Jerry's rant, I'm sure he would be open to taking your call.
Yeah, well, might cost you the sponsors money in the long run. I don't know.
I love it. All right. So game's getting ready. Your second half's getting to tip off. I love what David says right here. There's 24 minutes more to play. Let's get it. Jerry, what's your final score tonight?
Kings 120, Phoenix 111.
There you got it right there. Kings 120, Phoenix 111. We will see. I mean, nothing to complain about really in the first half. If you are the Sacramento Kings, they're up 68-51. Second half getting ready to get underway. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us as you always do at halftime. We and the chat so much appreciate you.
Well, it's always be an enjoy. Having a good time talking to you, Ryan, and bring them home, buddy.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it. That is Jerry Reynolds, the one and only. Really appreciate him showing up here. Everybody, thank you for being here at halftime. I will be back post game to wrap things up. Hopefully, the Kings can bring this one home. We will see. We'll take your calls on the post game show. Looking forward to that. And really quick, want to remind you, just in case you get hungry during the second half, don't forget about Bennett's West Side Grill in Rockland. That's their newest location in the Blue Oaks Town Center. If you're like me and you love a good weekend brunch, go check out their Bubbles and Brunch. $44 get you a bottle of cava or champagne, juice for your mimosas, and 2 entrees. You can't beat that. Bennett's West Side Grill. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com for more information. Locations also in Roseville and off of Howe and Fair Oaks. Thank you for being here on If You Don't Like That. We'll see you at the end of the game. Go Kings, light the beam.